Which players are on the chopping block, Tigercast fans? That is the question that Chris Herbert has posed to Grock and I tonight as we do a couple of little short videos. It's a very, very good question, Chris. Which players are on notice and who could we see traded, delisted, or retired by season's end, Grock? Now, I know it's only the 11th of December and we're talking about getting rid of players already, but it's a fair question. I've got some players in my mind, but I'll throw to you first. Who do you think is potentially in the gun for either of those ways to depart the club?
The main three for me are Thompson Dow and Tyler Sonsie. I think they're the two that are make or break seasons in 2025. They've got one more year to prove that they can develop. Obviously, they stagnated a little bit over the past couple of years. I think Dow's been okay, but he's also had to shoulder a lot of the workload because of a lot of our midfielders have been injured, and he's had to be that first or second string midfielder. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out if we've got our first choice midfielders back. But I think he needs to add another string to his bow. Sonsi's got all the talent in the world, but for some reason it just hasn't clicked, whether it be injury or the fact that he's been thrown all over the park. He just hasn't found any consistency to really show it at AFL level. So I think there's very much those two. Kalina, again, the experiment with Hayes Brown developing nicely in the VFL. I think this is the last year where Kalina has to prove that his body can actually handle the rigors of AFL, being an AFL footballer, because if he can't, we need to cut our losses with that and start looking elsewhere for another ruckman or project type. With the players that we've drafted, obviously we took a lot of talls, so Kaczynski could be another one that might be offered up on the trading block next year. And the last one for me, and it pains me to say it because I'm a massive fan and I love him, but I cannot see Camden McIntosh being at the club beyond 2025. Whether that be him retiring, which I think might be the most likely option, or he gets traded back to WA or wherever. I think those four names are probably the most likely at this stage to not be there in 2026.
The other one I'll throw up as a retirement potentially is Prestia, depending on how his body gets through the season. He was probably one that we all thought may have retired even at the end of this year. But he seems to be fit and firing, which is I'm super happy about. I want to make that very clear. I'm very, very happy to see him doing all the training at a high level because when he's up and running and going well, we play a lot better. But yeah, he could be another one just to keep an eye out for. But I do agree with the other names you mentioned. Dow, I've been a massive, massive supporter of Dow and probably gone against the grain a little bit, much for the reasons you mentioned that in 2024 he was asked to do a role that was not designed for him to do, being a number one or two midfielder, and he held the fort for us and he got us through some really bleak times. Look, and the reality of it is I just don't see him having bigger upside than some of these other kids we've just drafted, or a McAuliffe or a Ross, players like that who are probably going to already be past him and getting more game time. But you need insurance as well, especially in this initial year with these new draftees while they develop and grow. I'm just not sure he'll see past this year. Sonsie, like you said, is super, super talented. Part of me wonders if that suspension has messed with him as well. Obviously, he had that real brain fade. I think it was against North Melbourne in the VFL from memory, which essentially cost him some games at AFL level because he's probably on the brink of coming back in. So he's hurt himself there, but the throwing him around is definitely a factor as well. I mean, I think it's no secret we all believe that he does his best work as a midfielder. Anytime he's gone from AFL back down to VFL and played in the guts, he's put up some really good numbers. And I think we just have to try him in the midfield for a bit if we can manufacture that somehow. I just don't think he's going to make it as a half forward or a half back for whatever reason. Kalina, don't disagree with that. I really like him and I really hope he does show something because, he's a bit of a point of difference with how tall he is. But like you said, at some stage you got to weigh up how the body's holding up. And K-Mac, well, again, we needed to make sure we kept some experience for this year, like we said for a while. And depending on how those youngsters develop, maybe it is a retirement on the cards for him. But outside of those names, I don't see anything else happening unless there's some surprise trades that come up on the table. But I haven't there's been no speculation on that at this point in time, but who knows what happens there.
The only other one that you can maybe throw in that we might look to move on could be Jaden Short. He
Depending
could be
on the season
one.
he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. He definitely has this is a redemption year for Jaden Short, absolutely.
Yeah,
the other one as well, he did, yeah. The other one that I'll throw up, and this will be purely reliant on injury, is Tom Lynch. I mean, we've only had 8 games in 2 years from him. Granted that the medical staff we had prior to now probably didn't manage his injuries all the best, and that probably was a large factor as to why this has happened. But if he, for whatever reason, breaks down again or can't get on the park, I think it's something that he and the club would have to consider as well, especially now that we've got some forwards, in the shed to develop and bring through. But again, similar to Prestia, make no mistake, I'm super pumped to see him out in the track doing the work he's doing. And we are undoubtedly a much better side with him in the forward line.
Absolutely. And credit to Lynchy as well. There were some clips of him at training mentoring Smiley. We talked about Smiley in the last question. But, yeah, seeing Lynchy work one-on-one with Smiley on how to position in front and getting his arms up for marks, just fantastic. And it just shows the leader that he is. Smokey for potential captain this year.
That's not locked in, is it? Is that still
yeah,
okay. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, there we go. But so that's who we think might be on the chopping block for 2025. I think those names were probably names that a lot of you would have maybe thought anyway. But there's just some other considerations in regards to injury and players' age and how their body holds up that may play a factor as well. But look, a lot of these guys have got points to prove now. There's a lot more pressure for spots in certain positions, which is a good thing for the club. So hopefully they can put out a good year and make the choice even more difficult for the club, because it means we should hopefully get some good results from them. Especially
as we've got 2 other first-round picks coming in again next year as well, minimum.
Yeah, exactly right. So we're going to be adding some more strength to that area of the side. So let us know in the comments below. Do you agree or disagree with the players we mentioned who might depart the club at the end of the year? Keen to hear if there's any other players that we may have missed as well. Let us know in the comments below. But thank you for the question, Chris, and we hope that answered that for you.